G'day legends, it's Marena and it has been a massive week. So hey, get comfortable, get cozy, grab your cup of tea and let's yap. Oh, I recently got into honey, like kind of like Manuka honey, but European Manuka honey. And it has just been like, apparently it's really good for your body and it's not super sweet honey. So I just have to assume that it's like doing well by my body because you're not going to notice like the drastic differences between having like a bit of good honey every single day. But I'm like a week in and whoa, everything's different. This is a whole new world. As it would happen in Aladdin. A whole new world, a little bit of honey. Next question. Well, this officially just launched. Like we released an episode this morning and we released like the intro where I'm wearing the same shirt. It's all like a little bit different, but we released it and it's so exciting. I've just been so nervous for this to come out because I've been talking about doing it for so long. And I think what's cool about like this platform is that I think that a lot of people experience the same sort of stuff as me and like the awkward shit that we all kind of deal with. And I also think that as professional athletes, we kind of deal with this stuff just a little bit differently. Like there's a little bit more pressure on our daily interactions. There's a little bit more on like how we present ourselves. And I don't know if it's like the performative aspect to it as well. As athletes, like our profile is like kind of sometimes how we sell one another and how we sell how we sell ourselves. And so I don't know if it's like the Australian market or if it's like the female world and constantly when we were younger and historically it's like women have been like pulling each other down and you don't want to stand out too much, you know, you want to like be really good, but you don't want to stand out from the crowd too much, right? And so I think because of that and I can only speak for myself, but because of that, I've definitely avoided being as honest as I can about certain aspects or certain things. And like, I think now that we're moving and we're starting to change the way that we see the world, I think like now is a really cool time to start talking about it. Like sexuality, fluid, gender, non-binary, like gender is beautiful as well. And I don't know the correct phrases, but like, I just think that everyone should just respect everyone. Done, check. And I'd love to go into some stuff. So if you particularly like a train of thought that I've been going on, and I'm trying to keep these really short, but if you like something that I'm going down, like ask questions and let me know, because I would love to talk further about what you guys want me to talk about. Like I've got so many stories and we're going to get into some today. But if you want me to go down that coming out stories or queer stories, like let me know, because that's something that I think that I can share specifically about. Guys, isn't it the worst when people say pacifically instead of specifically? It's a little ick right there. So this got launched this morning and I'm looking at the intro and like the push out reel and I'm in the same shirt, but all I can see is like my eyebrows being like a straight line. And like I know we're talking about performative and like looking pretty and looking good and stuff. And frankly, I do have body hair. And so like what is having like your eyebrows a bit fuzzy one day? And I know, but I can't help it. Like in the back of my mind, like who I am, I'm just like, I see the brows and I'm like, oh, should have brushed the brows out. When frankly, who cares? It's out there. No one's staring at my brows. No one cares as much about my eyebrows as I do. Like no one cares as much about it as I do. And an example or like a great segue into my first story for the day is first impressions, because no one cares more about your first impression than you do. I've got two funny stories to tell about this because my first impression, like you would think that like I've met a lot of people. I meet people consistently, right? And I guess the added pressure of being like a professional athlete and having a public profile is that like maybe there's a perception of me already. I don't actually think that there is, but I'm just trying to use this to make people feel like if you've been on the receiving end of me being awkward, I'm so sorry. It is not you. It is 100% me. Example, I was back home for the break and I was watching Annalie play in the Perth Lynx stadium, and like being in a basketball stadium when I'm home so far has been very overwhelming because when I'm over here in Europe, I get to kind of tune out. Like I get to be in my own little bubble because of the language barrier, unless people are talking directly to me, which would be very obvious, but they're typically speaking English or they've gotten my attention. Besides that, daily life is I'm listening to another language. So I just like to tune out and like just stay in my zone and really lock into what I'm doing. So being in a basketball stadium at home where everyone is speaking English and some people know me and they want to talk to me, it can be very overwhelming, especially when this last time at home, I kind of entered that locked in period where I'm just watching the game and I'm comfortable and I'm settled and I'm in this little zone. So what happens when someone like so excited comes over and is like, Marena, how are ya? And I'm not ready for that. Well, best believe your girl starts sweating. Physically started sweating, but spiraling mentally, I was bad. So there's this one teenager who's like a big fan of the Perth Lynx and like a big fan of Annalie, and they've got a great relationship, and she makes these necklaces, these pearl necklaces. And so she's given Annalie one or two of them. And I see her and I'm like, yeah, cool. In the back of my mind, I'm like, why don't I get one? Like, can I please have a necklace? Like, that would be freaking sweet. Well, so she greets me. She's like, Marena, I've got a present for you. And I'm like, sick, like awesome. She gives me a necklace. I'm like, this is so great. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Crickets. Mentally, you could hear a pin drop. I felt so bad because I had nothing else to say because it's like, thank you so much. This is awesome. Are you enjoying the game? Oh, that would have been great. How's your day been? I asked about school. I asked one or two questions more, and then I just was like, thanks, enjoy the game. What? And like, I'm so sorry, Taisley. Thank you so much for the necklace. It was awesome. I hope that you don't feel like that was awkward for you, because for me, I felt like I was so awkward because I was so overwhelmed by being like, just in that moment, because I was not prepared to talk to people. So like, if you've experienced something like this, please let me know, because like, honestly, we are social beings and I love to think that I'm social and I'm great with people, but sometimes I struggle, man. And I felt so bad because I was just sitting there. I was like, yeah, what? Oh my God. Similarly, another experience at home this year when I was preparing for the Olympics, it was so fucking awkward. I was down in Rockingham and I was watching Annalie play. I wasn't in Rockingham, sorry. I was watching her play against Rockingham, another team. And one of my high school basketball coaches, I went to Caulfield Grammar, privilege, and he'd moved over to WA, and I'd seen him a few times like throughout my career. And I was just sitting there watching Annalie's game, and she'd finished. So I was just like sitting, waiting for people, not really talking to people, just kind of like in my own world once again, and watching the game. And then enters into my peripheral, "G'day, MJ, how are ya? Hey, what's up? How are you? Hey, lad, I'm wearing a beanie, I'm wearing a long shirt, I'm wearing trackies, I'm wearing a big jumper, and immediately, like, pin drops. I can't place his name. I did not anticipate this. Like, I was not prepared at all. And so, like, what I normally do in those sort of situations is, like, ask questions. If I'm overwhelmed, I take a moment and, like, I have to go do something, like, leave the situation to come back if I... kind of become like a little bit reserved and insular for a moment so that I can kind of like observe and then step in when like I'm ready, like mentally ready. There was no time to do it in this situation because he was asking questions. We were going back and forth. Like, we were talking about the Olympics, talking about the kangaroos, talking about all of these great things. And I was just like struggling. Oh my God. And because I was hot, and I have so many like examples of this in my life where I know that I sweat. I'm a sweaty person. If you've ever seen me play basketball, I'm one of the wettest people on the court. Sweatiest people on the court. And so, like, I'm aware that I'm overwhelmed because, like, we're going back and forth and I'm just, like, not really prepared, and I've just, like, been, like, pulled out of my little bubble. And one of my friends has come across who also went to Caulfield, and so we're all kind of yapping, and she's my lifeline. And I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm sweating. And she's like, yeah, you can see you're beating on your forehead. So I'm like, fuck, okay. Can they see that I'm sweating? Everyone's just staring at me sweating, and they know that I've got like trails down my back, and this is just the most awkward thing ever. It wasn't. I was just sitting there overwhelmed. And this was only like a 10-minute interaction, by the way. But in my mind, I was like bright red, sweating. I had to pull up my sleeves. Oh, just the worst. Anyway, so we go towards the end and like we're getting through. It's fine. They offer to buy me a drink. So I'm like, yep, I'll have a glass of wine. Thanks, mate. Brings over a glass of wine. I'm not back to 100%. So what does Marina Whittle do when it is time to say goodbye? Instead of leading with the hand that isn't holding a glass of red wine, she leads the hug with the glass over the shoulder so that when they hug, the two people next to me, my mate and his mate, bumps my shoulder, knocks the red wine right onto his sleeve. And it is just like any other day when I'm prepared for this, fine, would have handled it with a joke, would have handled it like with grace, humility. It would have been freaking like, oh, fucking sorry, mate, guess we're going to have to clean up on our wine, oh, lol. But when I was overwhelmed, when I was already sweating, it was the most socially uncomfortable thing ever. And again, it was a 10-minute interaction, and I'm sorry, he handled it with grace. We got it cleaned up. It was all fine. We figured it out. But in my mind, that's all he's going to ever think about when he thinks of me. Because I go to sleep at night. I'm like, oh my God, remember that one time with this dude? Oh, I was just going to ruin my reputation. But like, who cares? Like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't. And I'm pretty sure everyone in that situation walked away laughing and never going to think about it again. So, hey, if you've had an awkward first impression like that, or second, third, fourth impression, interaction, please send it in because you are not alone. We all deal with this shit every day. Like the following day, I had a great interaction with someone. Like this was just one funny, awkward situation that I've been in, and I've been in countless all year. 2 hands. Like, it's fine. They don't think about this as much as we do. They being like the general public. Like it is burned into our memory, I know. One thing, like tips, ways that I like to typically maneuver those sort of situations when I am overwhelmed. I'm very honest about myself. Like I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before, but when people remember me, and I've been told this, that Marina Whittle, she just says whatever she's thinking. She just word vomits. Yes, I do. I word vomit. And frankly, it's hilarious, but sometimes it can get me into a world of trouble. But when it is helpful and I'm feeling overwhelmed, like that second experience when I dropped red wine, I had my mate, I had someone who was like a confidant, don't know. And I said, hey, I'm actually super overwhelmed. So what I like to do in those situations when I'm feeling overwhelmed and awkward and like trying to prevent any problems is I like to obviously express it. So I like to tell people when I'm comfortable. So if I have a friend there, then I like to let them in on how I'm feeling. And that typically like will help them understand me so that they can sometimes help me by taking charge of the conversation, suggesting that I go away, suggesting that we finish the conversation. Like just allowing yourself to be helped by other people involved is actually like pretty important. If I don't have someone there, then it's taking a time out. So either leaving the situation, finding an excuse to get away from the situation, to relieve myself, like just go away so that you can have like a mental reset before coming back. And if you can't do any of that, which we can always find a way to get out of situations, like we can always find a way to leave. But if you can't do any of that and it's a big enough group, or if it's a group enough, I just go a bit insular where I just like to observe. So like just go insular and like have a mental like reset so that it's like, okay, and just focus on what's going on inside of me so that I don't spill. So when I come out, I'm good. And then I don't spill a whole freaking glass of red wine over someone's sleeve and avoid like dry laundry fees. Anyway, I digress. So that's how I would handle that. And it's not necessarily just in Australia that I've experienced that. When we went out recently, we went out with we were all just kind of hanging out at the house, and we had an American from another team. We had a teammate, and we had our teammate's sister and her partner who was American. And again, the same thing happened. I just wasn't ready. And this is why, if you can, get to social engagements with new people 10 minutes later or 15 minutes late, because you miss out on the awkward shit. Those awkward first interactions when you're like, hey, so where are you from? How many siblings do you have? Where are you based out of? What do you do? What? When you run out of that stuff and you're still in that social awkward phase, it is hell. Thank God that when I was going through this, when we had like people in the house, I'm sitting there, I'm trying all these questions and nothing's really flowing and I'm like spiraling completely internally. But one of my friends was there, one of my teammates, and I was like, I am struggling. And she was like, yeah, you are. So what did she do as a beautiful person that she is? I reached out and she helped. She took over the conversation. She helped start games. She started conversations, and I was able to just like have a reset and just like sit back and just like watch everyone get together. Because personally, being a social person, I love when everyone is getting along. So when I'm sitting there and I'm not talking, and then I see people aren't talking, then I also really spiral. If you've had this, if you've had social awkwardness all the fucking time, let me know your experience. Because I honestly think those tricks, great tool. So if you've had that, hey, send it in and let's talk about it. I want to just finish on what I'm noticing to end 2024 and to enter 2025. And I'm noticing it in a lot of my like bubbles, like my social bubble, my friendship, family. Everyone I am kind of speaking to is starting to prioritize themselves. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's just my friends. I don't know if it's like the conversations that I'm having, but a lot of people that I'm speaking with are like learning to prioritize themselves and their boundaries and like stepping away from their phones, stepping away from what's like distracting them and kind of focusing more on themselves. So what I've started doing in my like prioritization of self looks very different to someone else. Like my morning routine is really important. Journaling is really important. Reading is really important. And like cooking for myself and even doing morning yoga. I don't do it every day. Like have that acceptance that not every day is going to be perfect, but as long as I can do it a few days in a row, I feel good. But so what does that look like for you? Self-prioritization and like choosing myself and entering 2025 with like full acceptance of who I am and what I do. I'm sure I've spoken about this before, but one of my cool friends, Lexi, love you Lex, cool friend, funniest girl I know. No, sorry, I've got lots of funny friends. Lexi, I love you so much. You are very funny, but everyone else, you know who you are. But what's really cool is I'm going through this journey within myself, and I say that like this is what I'm seeing because she is a woman of faith and she reads the Bible and she studies the Bible. And even within her own journey to end 2024, she's also going through it, and she's reading a book called Silence and Solitude, where she's like spending time with herself and like studying the Bible, or just spending time like without any distractions and sitting with herself. And I just think that's really cool and so weird that we're going through this in two very different ways separately at this time of the year. And so when we talk about it, it was just really, really cool. So if you're experiencing this too, please let me know. And let me know how you're choosing yourself and how you're prioritizing yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, we're all individuals, and we want to just be as happy as we can. And hey, if you need help or if you need support to become like that, that's what we're here to do. Lean on each other, friends. This has been a really fun episode, kind of a short episode, but thank you so much for joining me. Let's freaking go. And I have so many more experiences to tell you about just being socially awkward, man. Like, it's not just you. It's not just your mates. Like, everyone's been there. You should hear about how I was in the freaking Olympic Village. Like, some of those, just like, not even in the Olympic Village, at the Commonwealth Games Village, when we first got there, I just like, just pure embarrassment. Just wrong vibes, man. Too keen. But maybe we'll talk about that another day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to send in some experiences you've had that you'd like to share, please do. My DMs are open. You know me, Marena Weddle. Thanks for yapping with me, and see you next time. Legends!